I've been a writer for a long time, mostly fiction and plays. Poetry took a back seat. Most of the 50 or so I'd written were vertical, lineated, not very good. That changed this past year when I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in October. As I began the journey through blood tests and biopsies, my brain focused mainly on how long I might live. I knew the odds for survival were low, but I remained positive, if pragmatic. Towards the end of February, 3 months into chemotherapy, I decided to make a commitment to live at least 8 more weeks. That translated to joining a poetry workshop led by Danusia Lamiris, the current poet laureate of Santa Cruz County. Doing so changed my life. I started writing prose poems every day, often waking at 2 in the morning with an idea and getting up to write it down. The title of this first poem is Cold. It turned cold early this year, a freeze that occupies my nose, slashes through my heart on the way to swollen ankles and numb toes. Karen puts electric blankets on the bed, my writing chair, buys Duraflame logs by the trunkload. She is my heat, brings warm breasts to rub in the mornings as I sit in our foot-of-the-bed writing studio. The shock of my iced hands on her skin causes a scream, a jump away from me. I wonder if I affect everyone this way. Do they see small icicles dangling from my eyebrows? Does the oncologist remain aloof because my nostrils shoot frigid streams of air? Has the large malignant tumor in my pancreas stolen my body temperature to encase itself in ice, refused to allow a CT scan to show any reduction in size or vascular complication? There's so much I don't know about temperature, surviving a long winter, keeping the people around me warm and happy. While many of these poems focus on death and dying and illness, they're also sprinkled with life and living. This one took place in a garden in Hayward over 60 years ago. It's called Smooth Dirt. When I was 4, I carried 2 metallic sifters into the garden each morning, set up school between the pumpkins and cabbage. A red plastic trowel still stuck in the ground from the day before. I dig and scoop soft clods into the first sifter, squeeze the handle, and watch the silt flow into the tight screen of the second sifter. I'd turn the trowel upside down, use the handle to squeeze dirt through the second screen into little pyramids on the ground. With my bare hands, I would slide my fingers through the mounds, lift and spread my smooth dirt, make pies and cakes in airports and tunnels until my hands were black, my fingernails full. It was much later in real school that my education solidified. I came to value the importance of clean nails. Using 2 sifters was redundant. Smooth dirt was a concept no one understood, so I stopped making it. I have a large note to myself to remember to include humor in my writing. Here's an attempt in a poem called P Club. Our CPA has prostate cancer and Parkinson's disease. I have pancreatic cancer. Michelle's husband has polio. We're looking for others who might round out our P Club. Someone with psoriasis, pelvic inflammatory disease, pink eye, pneumonia. We'll only meet at parks, and we'll eat pastries, pies, pizza, peanuts, pears, and passion fruit. We will piss and moan, procrastinate, prevaricate, and pontificate. When one of us is cured or dies, we'll throw a party. Sometimes we forget about the unexpected ramifications of illness. This one portrays a little of that. It's called Lather. That we are imprisoned by our well-earned routines has never been a question. Switching from a 1967 Camaro to a 2015 Prius took months to remember not to reach for a key. Sometimes when driving down 30th Avenue, I'll make the wrong turn into an apartment complex I lived in 49 years ago. Even in a dream, I might jolt awake, drenched in sweat, having spent the night in the angry clinches of a former wife. Today, waking in a resort villa, the likes of which I've never imagined, I step into the shower, focus my aging eyes on the bottles in the soap rack, Remove the lid from the shampoo in preparation for a nice lather, like I've done for 49 years or so, until I lift a palmful of thick liquid toward my head and remember that I haven't had a beard or hair since the 9th round of chemo. It makes me laugh out loud, and I lather my shiny scalp anyway. My sister Kathy died of SIDS when I was 2. She was 6 weeks old. This one's for her and my family who suffered through it forever. It's called Burn, Baby, Burn. When I was young, I didn't know who killed God and why. I didn't know how to interpret empty holes in the photograph albums. At age 15, I brought a girlfriend, Kathy, home to meet my parents. I had never seen them so strange, quiet. I asked them later what was going on, and that's when I learned I had a sister who died of crib death, whose name was Kathy, who would have been the same age as the Kathy I brought home. It was my aunt who told me 20 years later about the night it happened, about how my mom found her, about how my dad went through the house gathering everything related to Kathy, piled it on the front lawn, poured gasoline on it, and set it ablaze. That's when God died for all of us, Aunt Bev said. In my philosophy of religion class, I learned otherwise. It was Friedrich Nietzsche who killed God nearly 100 years earlier, long before Kathy died, before my dad lit the match. This one was inspired by a visit to John Sandage and Betty Matheson's house in Happy Valley, where Betty taught us about the hooded oriole. It's called Icterus cucullatus. I can obsess on almost anything. Decorative paper, the perfect creme brulee, the works of Alice Munro. But birds have eluded the metal traps of my brain. Not that I don't love them. I can watch them at the feeders on our deck for hours, see the hierarchy unfold as the woodpecker bumps the blue jay. But they slip away, disappear. I lose interest. Until yesterday, at John and Betty's house on Brant's-Forty Drive, where we were introduced to the hooded oriole nest. Have you seen one? Have you held it in your hands? The oriole as master seamstress, stripping palm fibers from a frond, weaving them together in unique pieces of art to birth their young. My obsession has shifted. I may form a nonprofit. I haven't seen an actual bird yet with its golden mane. Need to buy a pair of Swarovskis, find a location, hide myself, wait, prepare to teach humans what birds already know. As I wrote this one, I was inspired by the idea that the past blasts through the present into the future. It's called missing. My Grandpa Wes operated heavy equipment in the 60s to knock down trees to carve a highway through Northern California. One fell sideways and crushed his arm, which was later amputated above the elbow. For the rest of his life, he swore he could feel an itch on the hand no longer there. Sometimes I'll run a brush across my scalp through missing hair. Will you roll over in the middle of the night and reach to cuddle a body that's no longer there? This one is inspired by the time spent in medical lobbies, especially at Stanford Cancer Center. It's called Lobbies. Always full. People waiting for what's next, good news and bad, wearing compression socks and saris and giant's hats and Birkenstocks and loose-fitting clothes to give easy access to body parts. Filling out forms, remembering what meds they're on, if their allergies have changed, smiling and frowning, happy to still be alive, wishing they weren't, bumping into acquaintances, friends, talking with strangers, comparing stories, wearing face masks, bandaged arms, collapsed veins, tattoos that sag, canes and walkers, rows of clinics with doctors on time, late, out, high blood pressure, twitching eyes, tapping of anxious feet, crossword puzzles and magazines and way too many cell phones. Who knew a life could end up here, in a lobby, with a tribe of others? waiting. Eye contact made between one with a bald head and another sitting in a wheelchair. A nod from each, like the exchange of blood, finger to finger, forever linked. I try to remember that it's not always about illness and health. The job of the poet is to observe everything. This is one of those observations with a touch of humor, called Along for the Ride. The first time I saw the spider's web wrapped around my side view mirror, I took it personally. Wanted to grab the hose and wash it away. This is my car. I see things with that mirror. Look at where I'm going when I back out. I sit in the driveway, observe the intricate design, the spider as survivor, as artist. How does it know where to intersect the strands of filament, to create the perfect amount of tautness to trap its prey? I see her head peek out from behind the mirror. Is she watching me or checking for lunch? We drive away together, a day full of errands, to Staff of Life for $5.92 granola, to Attilia's antique store to look for boxes. I skip the planned car wash. By the time we reach home, she's taken center stage in the web, flaunting herself, enjoying the ride. Is it a Zen thing that I've chosen to let her live? Is it really my choice? I sit in the car for a half hour questioning my sanity. Our longtime friend Janie works with us on our bookmaking projects, keeps us sane, makes sure we're being as healthy as we can. The title of this poem is Janie. Jane, or Jane Ann. She shows up here because she demands it, deserves it, takes her seat in the front row, knows when and how to inhabit appropriate spaces. She says, I can't imagine a planet without you on it, which makes us both cry. For 40 years, we have grown with different iterations of ourselves. She as mother, wife, teacher, mentor, friend, hospice worker, and grandparent. And now as a cherished passenger and companion on this new journey. She has been here before me, double mastectomy and every other imaginable ailment that goes along with a weakened immune system. She does it with humor, with pizzazz, with relentless pursuit. I can't imagine a planet without either of us on it, but we both know it's coming and try not to fuss about it too much. I was inspired to write this one after Karen sent me a text. It's called Almost Done. My wife has taken Pepper to the vet this morning. She's losing her hair, doesn't like her food, has growths on her skin, moves slowly after 84 dog years. I'm ordering a blueberry banana smoothie with whey protein at New Leaf Market on 41st Avenue when the text comes in. Pepper's almost done. I double over, weep with dry tears. We've only known her a couple of years, but we've become close. She's ours. The second text follows, after I've righted myself. She's getting IV fluids, antibiotics, and going home with special food for her upset stomach. After 12 weeks of chemo, I know how she feels. Will someone text me when I'm almost done? As of this filming, I will have written almost 200 poems in 5 months, many of which have been or will be published in literary magazines. Thanks again to Danusha for helping me learn to write and think about them. Thanks to Jennifer Sweeney for reading my work and offering critical advice. Special thanks to Gary Young, who's my prose poetry mentor. And thanks to John Silver of Migrant Media Productions for suggesting and producing this video to showcase some of my work. Thanks to Kathy for listening to all of them, and thanks to Karen for everything. They've all been role models for me, so it's appropriate that the final poem is titled Role Model. There was a time I considered myself a role model for students, their parents, my fellow teachers, my family and friends, anyone who'd listen and pay attention to what I had to share. I wrote books, presented ideas to teachers in their classrooms and at local and national conferences. I was pure, dedicated, driven in my quest for knowledge and truth. But something shifted, as if the tumblers in locks had magically been altered. It may have had something to do with the Loma Prieta earthquake and the loss of lives. It could have been the insanity of the Gulf Wars, or working for a corporate monster like Apple Computer for 11 months, or simply the rotation and replacement of brain cells. 30 years later, I can hear the brass tumblers realigning themselves. I may publish another book. This time, it will be about what I don't know.